non-denial leader fan radio network.
Tweet that.
And KFAN.com. 1 minute and 48 seconds past the hour, 3 o'clock. That's Central Standard Time. We welcome you back to a Thursday production of the Bumper to Bumper program. I am the host of the program, former Ink-Stain Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities. My name is Dan Barreiro, I before E, except in Barreiro. Brett Blakemore is in that chair on the other side of the glass. Guardsy is out today. We are delighted that you're here for the ride, which I was reminded by programming director Chad Abbott isn't the full 3-hour Gilligan's Island tour. It is apparently, what did we say, 2 hours and 45-minute tour. He says we're out about 5:45 today. We're out at 6 tomorrow. We're out at 5 next Monday, leading into the Vikings pregame show. And then he reminds me, I think the Wild have a game in the next week or two, like a 2 o'clock game. So I'm living, I'm stealing is what I'm doing. I'm admitting it at this point.
Who
so
needs summer hours?
That's it. These are. Who needs load management? It's automatic load management is what it is. So we'll still try to make it worth your while today. And tomorrow we're calling this, of course, Rams Week. Big game on Monday night. Still no word on the game being moved. We know it could be moved. If it is moved, it will be moved to Arizona. I believe the Lakers game tonight has been postponed. There was an NHL game, a Kings game that was postponed yesterday, and I believe the Lakers, double check that, but I thought I'd read earlier today or just not long ago that the Lakers game might also been postponed. So we'll keep an eye on that story. There'll be plenty of Vikings and Rams Week conversation today. In addition, Sean Salisbury will help us with all of that at 3:30 this afternoon. Chip Scoggins, who is out or has been out at TCO today to chat with various players, maybe even including the starting quarterback, is scheduled to join us approximately 4:30. That's going to depend on when he gets to the interviews that he's looking for at TCO. So he will file a live report from Egan. And speaking of live reports, our guy Craig Kilborn, Lord Kilby, is going to file a live report at 5:30 our time tonight. You know what? I might have to try to move that up, come to think of it, because I thought we were out at 6. So we might try to make that more like 5:15 in his case. The area he is in, as I mentioned yesterday, in Southern California, I don't think is directly affected by the horrific wildfires, but he's, of course, around it. He's paying attention to the story and to a certain extent has been in the middle of it. So we'll catch up with him at some point in the 5 o'clock hour of today's broadcast. Non-denial denial. We heard it today. I tried to tell you people it was coming. And in fact, I like to believe that I inspired Kevin Seifert to ask the question that he asked today in the KOC briefing, which you could have heard live on the Fan during the Common Man program. And O'Connell was asked about, with the news that Daniel Jones had been elevated to the roster, he asked him who would be Darnold's backup Monday night. Would it be Mullins, who it has been, really, for this entire season? Or, that's Nick Mullins, of course. Or might it be the former New York Giant, Daniel Jones? Here's the quote from KOC. In fact, maybe we can try to find the audio later of this particular comment. He definitely has progressed, he being Jones. He's gotten a lot of really good work in both running scout team works and then just extra work here and there when he can. And Nick and Brett Rippon as well. The best way I can put it is we're doing everything we can to get Sam ready to go. But at the same time, whether it's Nick or Daniel or Brett, having all those guys absorbing the game plan like always, it's such a fluid thing here the rest of the way. We're going to do whatever we think gives us the best chance to win. Asked if that meant there was a chance Jones could be the backup quarterback Monday night, O'Connell replied, the Vikings would, quote, do whatever it takes to give us the best chance to win here the rest of the way. That's what we call in the business a non-denial denial. Now, it doesn't mean Daniel Jones is the backup, but it is the question I've had ever since they elevated him. Interesting. What does this mean exactly? And it probably does take on greater weight this week, fair or not, because Darnold played so poorly last Sunday night that people are going, oh, well, we kidded. What if at halftime in either Arizona or Los Angeles, the Vikings are trailing the Rams 13-3. They've been to the red zone 3 times. Twice went for it and failed. The other time had to settle for the field goal. And Darnold is ordinary, or maybe he's even thrown a pick. Could Daniel Jones start the second half of the game? It sounds preposterous. It sounds absurd. But I don't think you can rule anything out. And it is, I think, kind of telling that the head coach, whatever he's thinking, he was unable to declaratively say, we love having Daniel Jones here. We love what he brings. Nick Mullins has been our backup quarterback. Nick Mullins will be our backup quarterback on Monday night. It's not that tough to do unless you don't want to do it, because you do want to open the door to other possibilities. So that, to me, was the most interesting wrinkle today, that from several things that the head coach had a lot to say about the Wildfires, obviously as a man who spent a lot of time in Southern California, knows a lot of people there. In fact, I think he alluded to the fact that some people he knows have lost their homes or had great damage done. But in terms of the team itself, that was the juiciest deal. Now, I'm a jackal. I'll admit it. I'm a media jackal, so I'm going to play with it a little bit. But I think it needed to be asked, and I, again, like to think we inspired Seifert to pursue and follow it, because it sounds as if the first time he was asked the question, he really didn't answer it. He just talked about Jones is progressing, talking about all the other quarterbacks as well, and finishing with, we're going to do whatever we think gives us the best chance to win. Then given a second chance, and this is good question, reporting technique, follow it up, pin him down a little bit. You didn't really answer the question the first time, Coach. So is there a chance Jones could be the number 2 quarterback on Monday night? Vikings are going to do whatever it takes to give us the best chance to win the rest of the way. So there you have it.
I do have the audio if you do.
All right, let's hear it.
He's gotten a lot of really good work in, both, running scout team looks and then just extra work here and there when we can with Josh and really and Nick and Brett as well. I was really happy to get Brett back. He's somebody that I think's done a phenomenal job all season long.
That ain't going to be Brett Rippon.
Has a really, really bright future. So we're really fired up to get him back. And it's kind of, the best way I could put it is we're doing everything we can to get Sam ready to go, but at the same time, whether it's, Nick or Daniel or Brett now, all those guys are absorbing the game plan like always, and it's such a fluid thing here for the rest of the way. We're going to do whatever we think gives us the best chance to win.
That's the biggest difference. There's a chance that he could be the number 2 quarterback.
We're going to do whatever gives us the best chance to win here the rest of the way, Kev.
There it is. So, a couple people have already texted. Well, that's him just playing the game, giving the Rams more to think about. Who do they prepare for? All of a sudden, they have to go, we got to find some Daniel Jones tape. We got to remember what he's all about. I guess. I'm not sure that that's going to prompt a team to curl up in the fetal position defensively when it comes to the preparation period, but maybe that's the game. In NFL circles, the secretive circles of the NFL, maybe that is what you're conditioned to do. That's the approach you're conditioned to take, whether you really think it gives you any advantage or not. But it is, I think, kind of interesting. Is it possible? About this idea, a Daniel Jones package, a series. We bring him in for a series or 2. Throw something a little different at him. Maybe a little more boot action. Maybe try to take advantage of his legs. I don't know. Just saying. Wouldn't be the worst idea. Look, offensively, in the first game against the Rams, we had a great first half. And I don't believe we scored a touchdown in the second half of that game. In fact, we're going to later, I saved the notes. Our red zone activity in the second half was problematic, very similar, you could say, to what it was the entire game against the Detroit Lions on the season finale, the regular season finale. So I don't know. Maybe we throw something a little bit different at them, and we get this. We get an extra touchdown out of the deal, or we get an extra 2 field goals. I'm not sure the way to look at it, but worth noting on this, what we like to call Rams Week. I mentioned Salisbury at the bottom of the hour. Lots to get to with him. We'll get his reaction to the possibility of, could Jones actually see time? Is it crazy to even think of it that way? How committed? I mean, to me, the larger question is, how committed at this point are you to Darnold, as odd as it sounds, when it's your playoff life, when there's no tomorrow, right? Is it a half? Is it 3/4? Is it we're going the distance with him? Are you kidding me? Come on. We'll take our chances that he can figure some things out. The Rams defense is sneaky good. And there's some good background on how it's got a bunch of young no-names on it that are very promising players. And from a payroll perspective, I think the whole defense costs like $5 million. I'm exaggerating, but not by much. So that might be part of our discussion today. There will be a done as before we're done.
Don't miss out on the Power Trip Morning Show when they take over Treasure Island February 6th and 7th. Be there for tons of games, laughs, great prizes, including Vegas trips to watch the big game. Book your stay using the promo code KFAN for both the 6th and the 7th to save 15%. Full details and to book your stay today, head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
651 guy, actually it's Brian from St. Paul. Great show, but isn't the Daniel Jones activation more about receiving a compensatory draft pick next year if Jones signs with another team? Yes, it is. We have covered that. The question isn't about the elevation. What I think is kind of interesting is the coach's unwillingness to just confirm he's with our group, but he's not necessarily in the mix to be the backup QB. That's what makes it a little bit. It's under the classification of it doesn't really have to be a big deal, but the easiest way to stop it from being a big deal is for the head coach to be not coy about it and not do the old, hey, we're going to use whoever we need to use to get us wherever we need to go. That's indeed the. What makes it a bit juicy for me on what we like to call Rams Week. 612 guy, it's the playoffs, Dan. Now is not the time to dip and dunk with unproven quarterback. Well, Jones has one more playoff victory than I think Sam Darnold has playoff games, right? This will be his first. I believe it's Sam Darnold's first playoff game, if not mistaken. He wasn't on very many good teams. Now, Niners, he was on a playoff team, but obviously didn't play. When he did play, it was the regular season. So,
where was that playoff
just
win,
saying,
by the way?
That particular playoff win might have been in downtown Minneapolis against your second favorite football team. Why would the coach give info to the other team about backups or anything? Oh, it's a secret. It's a big secret. Shh. If you buy that nonsense, then have at it, man. Get aroused. 701 guy. It's just, it's silly. It's nonsense. It really is, but, take it for what it's worth. By the way, has there been any discussion? Is the New York Post the only place I saw this, or was there something local about Blake Cashman's girlfriend, Taylor, Saunders, expressing frustration with the Lions fans at the game? Have you read about this? Did I miss it?
I didn't. I saw the headline that the wives and girlfriends are getting shtick.
Well, so the TikTok video was captioned by Saunders: travel 10-10, ladies 10 of 10, Detroit fans 0, 10 out of 10.
Whoa.
And it was a photo which showed some of them Vikings, I guess, girlfriends and wives boarding a private jet to Detroit, and then she was talking about what took place afterwards. Let me know. So what exactly was the heckling? Because somebody apparently online was trying to defend the Lions fans, and her reply was wishing injuries on the opposing team players ain't the vibe, babe. So I don't know how significant was it? I doubt it was Philadelphia Eagles fans level. I would hope no one else would ever have to experience that. What's a girl got to do to support her man at a football game without getting heckled? Because I would just say, and apparently also, there was the issue of, I guess, during the moment of silence, there was a Viking sucks chant, although I thought that started before the announcement, so I don't know that one thing necessarily had anything to do with the other. But I guess we have to define what heckling is, right? Is it if it's Philadelphia Eagles fans level heckling, then we've savaged that before. Is it people shouting out, whatever, your team sucks or your boyfriend's a jerk or what? I don't know. I guess I would need a little bit more information, but if there are other people who have it, hit the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. Real quick as well, Brian Flores is now getting some requests, right, to be interviewed for head coach. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is a former teammate. Well, I shouldn't say teammate. He played under Brian Flores 2019 and 2020 in Miami. Flores, you'll recall, was fired after the 2021 season, and Fitzpatrick was on something called the Fitz and Wit podcast. The Fitz and Wit podcast. And apparently on that podcast, Fitzpatrick said that during year one in Miami, Flores was both, quote, likable and relatable, end quote, despite a 5-11 season. However, Fitzpatrick believed that by the time Flores was at the end of his Dolphins tenure, something changed to make him, quote, unrecognizable. So much so, in fact, that the former quarterback said that Flores became akin to a, direct quote here, dictator. More from him. By the way, Witt is Andrew Whitworth, but this is more Fitz. But when people say, give me somebody from Miami that coached under you as a reference so we can talk to them, I think he burned a lot of bridges there. I think he alienated himself from the entire staff. Instead of what you were just talking about, having the humility to ask questions, to collaborate, there's a buzzword, I think by the end of his time there, he became a dictator. He ruined a lot of relationships that he built up through the NFL. And his ego grew so big that there was not room for anyone else. That's pretty frontal. And we've heard Tua be pretty frontal with him, but it was Tua. And that was about the way he felt he was mishandled by Flores when Flores was the head coach. I hadn't heard anybody else get into the fray. He goes on later to say, basically, that Fitzpatrick tries to soften it later and to say, I still consider him a friend, and I think I get the feeling he's learned a lot since he left Miami, and especially since he got to Minnesota, that he might have changed. And there's a lot of people here who've suggested that he has, maybe even from KOC in his approach, learned about a different way to do things, and maybe he's just realized he made some mistakes down there and feels like he would do some things differently as well. I don't think this is going to disqualify him. My point of bringing it up is, though, I think it is further evidence he's going to have to address it. And it's probably going to be a factor in how teams look at him. Beyond the lawsuit, this is under a different classification, right? Because I know there's some people who think teams don't want to mess with him because of the unresolved nature of the lawsuit. But this has more to do with as a head football coach. And we've already said you're going to have to address how you work with quarterbacks. And if you learned some things there, and do you regret some things in Miami? But now I think what this story and the Fitzpatrick comments here also introduces is that he might more generally need to talk about, how dictatorial he was, how far did he go, is he in a different place? Because all these coaches have weaknesses, right, or vulnerabilities, realistically. Flores are out in the open a little bit more than most, probably. But if you're if you're interviewing him, You absolutely are not doing your job if you do not vet these sorts of comments, accusations, whatever you want to say, and either dismiss them on the basis of other intel that you get, or perhaps get worried that there's confirmation of exactly that issue. So who knows how any of this, what impact it will have, but I did think it was kind of interesting when you throw it into the mix. There's a quote in this piece, too, from Flores himself. Oh, it's an honor, certainly, that I definitely don't take lightly, talking about the opportunity to interview for head coach. I think he also said at some point, I always want to say, if I were to leave here, thank you for my time here, but it's going to take something really good for me to leave. And that gets back into how, especially perhaps second time around, how desperate you are. There's to this day some people who think that Ben Johnson is going to turn down all offers again. I don't know how. I think that's doubtful, but there's been discussion about it. So let's pause here, and maybe we'll get Salisbury's reaction to some of the things that have been said about B-Flow. I do want to get his reaction to the Sunday night closer because we've not talked with him about it, and then clearly look forward to Vikings, Rams, and the quarterback situation, etc. Questions for Shawnee? Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686.
Head over our contest page to enter for your chance to win a pair of passes to an early screening of the historical thriller September 5th in theaters January 17th. Movie September 5th in theaters January 17th. KFAN.com keyword contest center now.
I asked Guardsy this. You sure the name of the film isn't January 17th?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's.
I want to be sure.
But it's September 5th.
All right.
On January 17th.
So we don't have to wait till September to see January 17th. I'm not going to. That's too confusing. God, I hate to pass along this breaking news. It's the last thing I want to tell our audience because I like to deliver on all of our promises. But it looks like we're going to have to move Sean Salisbury to Friday again this week. His issue is terrible weather. They've got, I guess, a big storm blowing through the greater Houston area, and I think other parts of the South are getting nailed by it, Dallas included. He's got like 35 degrees. That's cold for Houston. Rain and wind. He's got no internet, and we've had some challenges with the phone in where he lives in the past. So he is asking us, saying, look, can you help us out or help me out and move the bit to tomorrow? So we'll do that. And mainly because then most important thing is that you can hear him, right? And there's no frustration there. So original 330 bit for Salisbury today moved probably again, I think we did this last week or the week before, to 305 on the Friday Football Beast. So that's, that is the update right now. We will get to Chip Scoggins probably about an hour from now, maybe a little less than that. And we are efforting. In fact, yes, he's Craig Kilborn is kind enough to adjust his schedule. He's going to join us at 5:15 our time instead of 5:30 because we are out at 5:45 tonight. We'll keep you abreast, too, on the obvious regarding if there is an announcement on the game site being changed to Arizona from Los Angeles. That has not happened yet. But it's looking, I think, more and more likely, I would say. There are worried Vikings fans expressing concern that this Monday night game, wherever it's played, could turn into Matthew Stafford's flu game. Do you know about the Stafford family news?
No.
Well, apparently, here, this is via SI.com. Matthew Stafford's wife is named Kelly. In fact, I think they appear in commercials together from time to time. It's fairly well known. And she apparently has been battling a severe case of the flu since the Rams lost to the Seahawks. That was their last game of the regular season. She says she passed out due to illness in her suite during the game. And she believes she and two of her daughters are also sick. So, in an interview on a program called The Morning After, with Kelly Stafford. Oh, no, it's a podcast. Excuse me. It's her podcast. The Morning After with Kelly Stafford and Hank. She says she's considering moving out of the house this week to keep her quarterback husband germ-free and to prevent him from catching the flu bug at an inconvenient time. If all my kids have the flu, I don't think we should be in the house with them. It would be us moving. I know everyone's like, well, why would y'all move? There's 5 of you and 1 of him, because all of his work stuff and his film room and everything is here. So we would just get out of here. I think that is on the table right now. So there
I think you
got
to tip that. You got to respect that.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Dedicated to the bit.
It's very it's tremendous dedication to the bit. You're 100% right about that. If we get any new information on that, we'll let you know. But I know now Vikings fans are really out. He'll get the flu and he'll play great. He'll have a Michael Jordanian kind of a moment. We're paranoid here, and I understand a lot of that as well. Let me ask you a question. Did you see this? And I don't know if this falls into the classification of sensationalizing the news. I'll just read this. Tell me what you make of it. DraftKings and Delta Airlines announced a partnership that will include DraftKings-powered gaming options on the back of Delta seatback screens. Further details have not been released. This is a tweet from Ryan Butler, who is I think, big-time gambling, betting, financial news, gaming industry reporter. Federal law prohibits real money sports betting while in the air. So you're a much greater betting mind than me.
Wow.
So, because a lot of people are going, oh, great. That's just great. It's not like we don't have enough, gambling addicts out there. Now we're going to have another whole, we're going to add to that population. We're going to double it. We're going to triple it. Some wise ass named Kyle Scott Leskowski. In case of a water evacuation, find your life preserver under your seat. Simply put it around your neck and pull the string to inflate. You may also blow in the red tube. And please, don't forget to bet on the Lions at -3 before we hit the runway, as federal law prohibits the placing of wagers while in the air. So how is this going to work? Is it then literally, if you can't make bets in the air where with real money's involved, you're going to do it like on the ground? I mean, I don't know. I'm all confused. In places where betting is legal? Or is this going to be a different kind of gaming where, it's just fun for people? Because most people don't want to just do it for fun. They want to do it for money, right?
You would think. Have
you read about this or heard about it?
No, I haven't. Here's my thing. Who in Washington thought, what we got to get rid of? Betting in the air.
Well, because they were anticipating this. They were anticipating the possibility that DraftKings and a major air carrier were going, hey, here's another. It's as if, that's, I think for right now, is the only place to get away from it. And now it sounds like they're trying to set up a system where we can't even get away from it then.
Well, maybe what it is, too, is because if you're flying, let's say it was legal in the air.
Yeah.
If you're flying anywhere in the Midwest, you could probably bet legally in that case. But as soon as you enter Minnesota airspace, it would have to shut down. Because that type of tomfoolery is not allowed. We don't allow that here. Great state.
We didn't talk about that with Kessler, whether this is the year it's actually going to get done. He has tended to be in the group that says, I'll believe it when I see it. Because every year we go, nope, this is the year, and we never get it done. So I have no idea whether this year is going to be any different. But if you have information on this, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. That's 64686, because I definitely got a kick out of, as much as anything, the reaction to it. And here's the other thing, I don't want to be sitting next to some chowderhead who's going to lose his mind because he lost some stupid ass bet, on his seat back. Oh my God. There's enough distraction, enough people who think that a commercial jet is their own private plane by what they do taking their shoes and socks off, by what they do, yelling and screaming. Well, I guess you can't get cell phone connections like you used to, because there used to be phones on the airline, in the by each seat. I don't think that exists anymore.
I don't think so.
But I don't need another reason for an idiot to have his 5th or 6th or 7th drink because he's drinking away his sorrows because he just lost a bunch of money moments ago placing a bet.
Yeah, the horse race he was watching in the Bahamas, his horse finished 3rd.
Yeah.
And, that's it. Who's worse? Socks and shoes off of your feet guy?
Right.
Or a guy who, as soon as the plane stops at the gate, runs to the front of the plane?
That's a tough call. Well, my favorite in this case has come up 2 different times in our recent flights. The flight attendant will say, hey, looking for a little help here today. We're about 15 minutes late. There are a number of people on this plane with a tight connection. So we will kindly ask you to stay in your seat while those individuals get a chance then to do what you suggest, shoot to the front of the plane. And I think most of us would say, well, that's fair because we've all been in that spot. That's fine. But the tricky part is, as you know, I think, how do we know when the line ends and then it's not the same chumbalones who are always in a hurry, whether they have a tight connection or not, pretending they've got a tight connection, and then you're going to end up being the last people to get off the plane? How do you know when to step in and say, okay, is that everybody? I would have suggested that what flight attendants should do is they're the hall monitor. They should get in the middle of it. They should get between first class and coach and say, all right, my group that needs to get off quickly, where are you? Raise your hands. All right, I'm leading your way. And then is that the end of that group? Okay. And then everybody else, from the forward part and onward could then get to their seats or leave their seats and get in. The problem is I don't think there's any flight attendants who want to get in the middle of the mess. So they're trying to help, but they don't want to really be the hall monitor on it to say, how tight is your connection really?
So last week I go to Arizona, and at the gate, they're huge line, as there always is, and some guy, I'm about to scan my thing, and some guy literally just cuts me, scans his thing, and walks in. And I'm looking like, okay, I can't believe that just happened. So then when we're getting to our seats, I make an observation like, all right, this guy's in row 12. Like, I'm betting myself. I could have.
There you go.
I should have done it on the freaking draft.
Exactly
thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, I bet he's going to run to the front of the plane once we land. 3 hours later in Arizona.
Nailed it?
Nowhere to be found. He vanished.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Just no regard for it's his plane.
It's his plane.
Anyone else is just in the way.
It's stunning how much behavior there is like that. And like I said, I pity the flight attendants who have to deal with it because look, not all flight attendants are perfect, and occasionally they can get a little bit ruffled, but what they have to absorb and put up with, it's endless and rather challenging. And I'd probably last about, 10 minutes. I'd be fired after 10 minutes because I would be so confrontational. I'd be Larry David on the plane, unfortunately, and that doesn't get you anywhere. It's not really a smart thing to do. If people wondering why we're babbling about all this without talking to Sean Salisbury is because we have to move him from today, the regular day for him, last minute switch to tomorrow. He's got no internet. And we have learned over the years with Shawnee, if we don't have good internet and get him that way, we're doomed. So rather than create aggravation on the part of the listener and on the part of Sean Salisbury, because he doesn't like it either, he's hoping this winter storm that's raging through parts of the South will be clear of his area and will get him, it'll just enhance, I think, tomorrow's show, I think, is the best way to indeed look at it. 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. Somebody is saying maybe you could bet crypto. Are you big? I know nothing about crypto. Do you?
I've got nothing. I did the Dogecoin just for fun, just for the bit when it first, but I didn't really care. I think I made $5 on it.
So is it possible that this is a way for an airline to say, okay, when we're delayed leaving, or even we land, this is in a town where betting is legal. We land and we got to circle the runways because there's no gate open, and people get frustrated. You land and then you're 20 minutes later, you're still not at your gate. This is a way to fill in that void. We can't give you food because we can't pass out trays at that point or drinks, but we can allow you to bet. You can bet on whatever you want to bet. Now, but a lot of these bets, you're not going to know, if it's games, you're not even necessarily know that you win or lose because the games presumably have not necessarily been played, right? There's no outcome yet, right? But I guess you can bet. I think at DraftKings and these groups, I mean, can you bet? I assume you can bet on everything. It's not just like games, right? You can bet on anything
Probably
you want.
Futures and stuff.
It's got to be a lot of stuff. I would.
Here's a great idea. 701 guy texts in, could you use your miles to bet? Imagine sweating that over under.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's a great point. Yeah, you know what? I got like 500,000 miles. I can spare to, drop 40,000 miles. What the hell's the difference?
I could go to London for free if the Lions just kick this field goal
if it pays off. So you could, there's two ways to look at it. You can use miles to bet, or if you bet successfully, you get extra miles.
Yeah.
It could work for both ends. Yeah, that wouldn't be, there's actually a lot of people who might enjoy that part of it as well.
I got to book my flight during the Bengals game.
What I quickly read was they wanted to allow betting, but didn't realize they couldn't. Well, that's hard for me to believe that Delta would enter into any kind of an agreement without, somebody saying, well, wait a minute, how is this going to work? How can we really do this? Maybe for all I know, there's legislation imminent in Washington, D.C. that's going to change whatever rules we have about betting in the air. I'll be honest with you. I guess I didn't even know it was illegal to bet in the air. It never would have even occurred to me, but obviously we have a lot of entrepreneurs out there who clearly would be aware of something like that and would love to take that opportunity, correct?
If you were aware of that law and you ran into it,
yeah,
Godspeed.
What was the other?
You just couldn't wait to get down.
There was another betting update. What was the story earlier this week? Another way in which to make it even easier to bet than it already is. What would that have been? I don't know. Very difficult to say. Clayton from Rochester. Dan, is there any chance you could let Salisbury and Gerbschmidt overlap tomorrow?
Cool.
Could be radio gold. Now, we have had, I think we've had Gerbschmidt with Kevin Seifert because Seifert got tired of people saying, well, you're Gerbschmidt when Gerbschmidt's Gerbschmidt. And then we've had him on with OJ guy. Oh my God! Why am I the Milwaukee Brewers fan? Cato Kalin.
Yeah,
we've had them on together. That was Radio Gold. They're both Packers fans, but they're wired a little bit differently. I think it's fair to say. And so the battle that went on between the two of them, Gerby and Cato Kalin, was outstanding.
Not to mention on sermons, we had Gerby with a rube for about.
Oh, that's right. We did do that.
15 seconds before we had to dump the rube.
We had to dump the rube. Yeah, that didn't go very well. Lester writes, my understanding of the gambling in the plane is they can on the tarmac or when they are out of U.S. airspace. Well, again, believe me, these companies, man, whatever loophole exists or whatever gray area exists, they're going to go for it. The separation of church and states historically between sports and gambling, it's gone. We've talked about this I don't know how many times. It's evaporated into thin air. And I think deep down, there's probably some people who now regret it because I don't think they understood the ramifications of opening this up and making the two sides now as close as they are. I mean, they're in bed. And there's once upon a time, there was this huge, like I said, dividing line. That's gone. And now the outrage is gone. So something that 5 years ago might have been considered too outrageous to even consider, let alone do, all bets are off now. People in those industries, and they can, they talk the lip service about, we got a gambling anonymous number, or we got, if we don't gamble too much, here's the number to call, and all those sorts of good things. They, to a certain extent, I think legally have to, but they don't care. And I know you could make take the position of, well, these are adults we're talking about. If they're adults, they can pretty much do what they want to do. But I don't think we understood totally what opening the door to the degree we have was going to do. I think we're learning it, somewhat the hard way. But I think that's basically where we're at this point. A couple more. Oh, yeah. 20 years ago, we had Gerby and McHale on. I'll take his word for it. I don't remember that. I wonder how that went. Might have gone pretty good. I'm not sure. On this day, and this is not a calendar of calamity item. This would fall into the classification of, just the obvious of that. What's the date today? Jan 9. January 9, 1988. Your double-digit underdog Minnesota Vikings traveled to San Francisco, California, and Candlestick Park to take on the heavily favored, as I said, 11-point favorites, Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, Jerry Rice, and the San Francisco 49ers. And what happened that day remains, to this day, one of the greatest victories in Minnesota Vikings history. Final score, Vikings 36, 49ers 24. It was not that close. I was there. This was the famous Reggie Rutland day. Do you know the Reggie Rutland story? Or you maybe vaguely recall it? Candlestick Park press box is packed. Big playoff game. It's packed. It's an enormous press box, or was, when I think the stadium still existed. I don't know if it does, but it's not used. And Joe Montana fades to pass, looks right, looks left, and throws, it seemed almost directly, into the hands of Vikings cornerback Reggie Rutland. And he's gone. It is a pick six, which really pretty much establishes that this is going to be a laugher for the 11-point underdog Vikings. And as Rutland is going down the right sidelines, I can still see it, the man to my immediate left in the press box, Sid Hartman, stands up and screams at the top of his lungs, "Go, baby! Go, baby! Go, baby!" And I'm left to deal with the wreckage, because it's almost like other writers are looking at me stunned, shocked, amazed, like I'm in charge of them. Like, what am I supposed to do to Sid? What can I possibly do to Sid? It was that kind of day. It was also that kind of day for Anthony Carter. 10 catches, 227 receiving yards. It was then a single National Football League game, single game postseason record. The wide receiver was unbelievable. And also, that was the game that afterwards, I found myself surrounded by several Vikings offensive linemen in the visiting dressing room at Candlestick Park. And among them, the late, great David Huffman. They started wrapping athletic tape around my legs to teach me a lesson for not believing in the Vikings as if I was in charge of the point spread. Vegas was in charge of the point. Now, I'll admit, I might not have been all that kind to the club. I thought they had backed into the playoffs. They actually got in because another team helped them in by upsetting somebody who wasn't supposed to lose. But they started doing the wrapping, and the plan I learned later was they were then going to drag me with my clothes on into the shower with the athletic tape. And I don't know if they're going to mummify me at that point or not. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed at some point. I've been told later there was actually Scott Studwell, who basically said, all right, calm down a little bit. That took place on this date in 1988. So if I'm doing the math on that, and I shouldn't, that's 36 years? 36 years ago, and I can remember it like yesterday. I think, in fact, Mike Lynn, general manager of the team at the time, said this is the greatest victory in Vikings history. And it might well have been at that point, because they never won a Super Bowl, so it can't be any of the Super Bowl games, right? Might be another game that got you to the bowl. But given how big an underdog the Vikings were that day, the way they stunned the football world and absolutely took apart the 49ers, the defensive front was brilliant that day. Keith Millard included, Chris Dolman included, Henry Thomas included. They absolutely tortured Joe Montana. In fact, I think Montana might have gotten pulled in that game, just like Sam Darnold might get pulled on Monday night. See how I brought it back to today? It's not just about ancient history. It's about today as well. Top of the hour pause. Chip Scoggins on the Vikings, and maybe Darnold. I think he's talking to Darnold today, or intended to. Is scheduled for about 4:30, depending on, like I said, how quickly he gets all his work done. I believe he'll still be at TCO Performance Center. And Craig Kilborn's going to join us at 5:15 today. He'll file a live report from Southern California about the ongoing just devastation. There's no other word for it, even if that covers it. The loss, now some loss of life, but an incredible loss of obviously homes, businesses, etc. And still, I think, some significant question. The Lakers game in downtown L.A. was postponed for tonight. The open question is whether the Vikings will play in L.A. on Monday night or the game will indeed be moved to Arizona. So that's where we are. Top of the hour. Keep the text line wide open at 64686. If you have a talk back you can get to, we can include that as well. We've got a done as to try to get into the mix before this program is done. I've got a couple of interesting some Rams nuggets I want to discuss. Some Rams intel that I think should be part of our discussion as well. So lots of show yet to come. Stay with us.